It began as a fever dream. From the ashes of a defeated country rose a promise, raw, uncertain, impossible. They came by the thousands, ex-Confederates, refugees, men with nothing left to lose, following one man into the Yucatan, William Ellis. What began as a settlement became a gathering tide, desperation and hope moving south together. The veterans took up arms once more, not to relive the past, but to correct it. From exile, they forged something new. One nation, one state, under a new flag, marked by a single phoenix star. At the end of his presidency in 1880, Ellis signed the Hunger Act, a guarantee that no man, woman, or child in the Republic would ever go without food. It was the closing signature of a historic transition. Under Ellis, the Yucatan had transformed from a lonely jungle settlement into a modern Canaan. Mérida became known as the Paris of the Americas. Along the rail lines, small towns bloomed, familiar in shape, unmistakably new in purpose, drawing immigrants by the tens of thousands. His successor was Simon Bolivar Buckner, one of Ellis's most trusted generals. Buckner won the presidency in a landslide based on his success overseeing new colonies, mining operations, agricultural programs, and railroads stretching deep into Central and South America. Ellis left office without ceremony, slipping back into his mansion in Mérida. But power does not always leave with the title, and Ellis was not finished. What Ellis did next was no less historic. In a single deliberate act, he separated his personal empire from the Republic itself. His holdings in mining, shipping, railroads, agriculture, banking, and overseas trade, along with vast monetary reserves, were removed from state control and placed into a new entity, the Ellis Foundation. It was neither government nor private firm, but something unprecedented, a corporate and philanthropic power combined, designed to outlive any presidency. The foundation invested aggressively in science, medicine, engineering, and emerging technologies, while quietly serving as the Republic's secondary treasury, supporting the military, social programs, education, and public health, while the government itself operated on taxes and tariffs alone. Ellis was now one of the wealthiest men on Earth, his fortune rivaling the great industrial dynasties of the age, but unlike them, he had the backing of an entire nation, protected by one of the most disciplined and modern militaries in the hemisphere. The foundation itself was entrusted to Louis Ginter, with Judah P. Benjamin as Ellis's diplomatic architect. The Republic remained constitutional, elected, and lawful, but its true strategic weight now rested elsewhere. When asked why he turned down his own chance to be Buckner's Secretary of State, choosing instead to stay at Ellis's side as advisor and legal counsel, Albert Pike answered simply, "When the most powerful man in the world asks you to join him, you don't refuse him to serve a president." Ellis had not abandoned power. He had perfected it. It had been the dream of John C. Breckinridge and Ambrosio José González since the earliest days of the settlement, Cuba. Its position astride the Caribbean sea lanes, its sugar and tobacco wealth, and its proximity to Bermuda would place the Republic at the center of global trade and among the most powerful nations on Earth. But the Republic was still exposed. It had narrowly avoided war with the United States. Napoleon's France, its greatest ally, had collapsed into revolution. Internal tensions still simmered. And Cuba remained under Spanish rule, defended by a military and treasury that still dwarfed Ellis's own. Yet Ellis saw opportunity. Spain was now ruled by King Alfonso XII, young, cautious, dominated by Prime Minister Antonio Cánovas del Castillo, a man obsessed with preserving Spain's crumbling empire. Cuba itself was already bleeding, scarred by the 10 Years' War, a brutal and inconclusive revolution that had devastated the island and radicalized a generation. In Jamaica, Ellis met secretly with the revolutionary poet and firebrand José Martí. Martí pleaded for weapons, gold, and protection, offering future trade concessions and land in return. But Ellis saw the truth. Martí's cause, however righteous, was doomed. To support him meant endless bloodshed, perpetual rebellion, and war with Spain, and likely America and Europe as well. Ellis would not sacrifice his people for a revolution that could never hold what it seized. When Martí asked what Ellis truly wanted, the answer was cold and final. All of it. Martí recoiled. "I'd heard you were a tyrant." Martí left Jamaica furious and empty-handed. He would be dead within the year. Ellis later said of him, "He was fearless, proud, a fire of a man. I greatly admired him, and I'm glad I never had to kill him." After his secret meeting with José Martí, Ellis acted decisively. Using detailed intelligence on rebel numbers, movements, supporters, and their spy networks inside the Spanish administration and Creole planter class, he set his plan in motion. He directed Ambrosio José González to infiltrate the rebels, supplying them arms while secretly reporting their strengths, weaknesses, and loyalties. Simultaneously, Ellis quietly acquired sugarcane plantations as observation posts to monitor both sides and exploit divisions. Patient and unseen, he waited for the perfect moment to strike.
But in his quiet hours, Ellis was haunted by dreams. He had sold men, women, and children to finance the settlement. The Republic had been born from human bondage, and no law or empire could ever silence it, and it began to take its toll. Ellis poured vast sums into medical research, malaria, yellow fever, battlefield trauma. New experiments in anesthesia, sedation, and pain management transformed the Republic's hospitals and saved thousands of lives. But years of wounds, disease, and exhaustion had left his body failing. Doctors kept him upright with tinctures, tonics, and laudanum. It was during this period that William James arrived. Drawn by the Republic's commitment to pragmatism and knowledge over dogma, James traveled from Yucatan to Baja, recording stories, beliefs, and philosophies. He and Ellis spoke for hours about consciousness, free will, and the occult. Under James's influence, and encouraged by Albert Pike, Ellis crossed a line. Experiments with drugs, spiritualism, and altered states followed. The search for knowledge became a search for meaning, the persistence of spirits. One night, deep in a laudanum-induced vision, Ellis saw what he believed was a command. If his soul was stained by slavery, it could not be cleansed in the Americas. It would have to be faced where it still lived. In the wake of France's crushing defeat in the Franco-Prussian War, Ellis secured a sweeping debt settlement with the Third Republic government. In exchange for ships, modern weapons, and relief from its crushing debt obligations to the Republic, France ceded territorial claims across Africa and Polynesia, including the Comoros Islands. The territory promised little beyond guano deposits and modest farmland. Yet it lay deep within the grip of the Arab slave trade, one of history's most merciless systems. Rather than risk another war, this time with entrenched sultans and warlords, Ellis chose patience. Foundation teams, archaeologists, scientists, and cartographers quietly surveyed the terrain, tribes, and resources. Behind the scenes, intelligence operatives mapped slave caravans and trade networks. Along with the newly appointed Secretary of War, John Mosby, Ellis approached France with an offer too compelling to refuse. Funding for expeditions and acquisition during the height of the scramble for Africa in return for coordinated strikes against the trade's architects, Sultan Said Ali bin Said Omar of Grande Comore, the Zanzibari powerhouse Tipu Tip, who dominated the Congo Basin's ivory and slave routes, Arab Swahili raiders, and the ruthless Ruga mercenaries who terrorized villages for profit. With the Secretary of the Navy, James Bullock, Ellis created one of the most modern and ferocious naval fleets in the world. The resulting campaign shattered Islamic trade networks with decisive force. As slaver caravans crumbled, the Republic had emerged as a global power in industrial raw materials. Vast Niger gold fields poured out 250,000 to 300,000 ounces a year. Palm and peanut oils surged past 150,000 tons annually, and early mastery of wild rubber vines in the Congo Basin. At the heart of this transformation lay the Great Liberation, history's most sweeping and successful anti-slavery operation. Nearly 1.8 million people were freed from bondage or placed under Republic protection. Far from mere emancipation, the effort built enduring stability. The newly liberated were organized into agricultural communes, equipped with modern tools and trained in advanced farming techniques. Ellis was determined to create a new colony as he had in the Yucatan and Baja, and he named it Ellis Town, not as a conquest, but as redemption. President Simon Bolivar Buckner appointed him governor of the African territories, and the Ellis Foundation moved quickly, modern ports, roads, hospitals, and schools rising from the coast. But Africa had changed him. He had come to believe that no white man should rule there, not even him, so Ellis looked elsewhere, for American black leaders who believed in republican government, nationalism, capitalism, and Christianity, and who saw both Islam and socialism as existential threats to stability. He found them in Alexander Crummell, Richard H. Kane, and Henry McNeill Turner. All three knew Africa. All three had known disappointment. Liberia had failed, Reconstruction had failed, and the Civil Rights Act of 1875 had failed. Crummell and Kane saw Ellis Town as something different, properly funded, pragmatic, and ruthless enough to survive. An all-black state, even under a Confederate banner, carried a sharp irony. America's broken promises turned back on itself. But Turner was not convinced. He reminded Ellis that black men were still barred from full citizenship in the Yucatan, concessions made to former slaveholders to keep the Republic from tearing itself apart. Ellis did not deny it. Turner wanted more than equality. He wanted autonomy, the same granted to the Mayans and native nations in Baja, not subjects, recognized men. Then Turner asked a question. Was this all for his guilt? Ellis asked why that mattered. Turner replied, "You can feel guilt for kicking a dog, but he's still a dog, and you're still his master." At that, Ellis personally appointed Henry McNeill Turner governor of the African territories on behalf of President Buckner. He established the African Council, withdrew white Confederate troops, and authorized the formation of the 1st African Confederate Regiment, commanded and staffed entirely by Africans and black Americans. Ellistown would rule itself. For the first time, Ellis did not stand at the center of power, and that perhaps was the point. As Ellis departed Africa, he left behind more than reforms. He had ignited a powder keg that shook Europe to its core. His actions marked him as a direct threat to Britain, Germany, and Belgium. France, weakened and cautious, was no longer an ally, only a regional partner. Ellis was now sailing into uncharted waters, utterly alone. When he arrived in the Republic's Polynesian territory, he was welcomed by King David Kalakaua himself. They spoke of future partnerships and discreet land purchases on Kauai, but Ellis had come for more than ceremony. He had carried a vision since the Republic's birth, an alliance as audacious as the nation itself. Through secret channels, meetings were arranged between Ellis and Richard Olney, acting on behalf of President Grover Cleveland. Ellis proposed more than trade or logistics. He offered peace, formal recognition of the Confederate Republic in exchange for a binding trade agreement. He warned of rising European powers and argued that together, as neighbors, they could hold the Caribbean and the Americas as a single shield. Treasure could be shared, but so could destiny. And so, for the first time in over 20 years, William Ellis returned to the United States. In New York, he became a sensation. In a single speech, he called for reconciliation, brothers reunited. He pledged to personally fund the care of all Civil War veterans, Union and Confederate alike, speaking not for the Republic nor for any government, but for himself alone. He called slavery a grave moral wrong and vowed to pay reparations to every living former slave. It was time, he said, for Americans to heal. Among those listening was a young politician struck by Ellis's conviction and force of will, Theodore Roosevelt. Once branded a traitor, Once threatened with death from the White House, Ellis now stood there as a diplomat. With President Cleveland, the final terms were set. The treaty was signed at Gettysburg, where veterans of both armies met, and for those who had survived, the war truly ended.
The fight is over, as only whispers remain, lying in a field of blood where the pain never stops. I hold you now in my memory, with only a voice to keep me whole. I hear the prayers of the dying in this cold, cold rain light, the echoes of thunder singing a mournful refrain. I write you this song as I face the end, in blood-stained words and the light growing dim. I think of your face.
Before leaving, Ellis slipped away from his entourage and traveled south, back to Tennessee. He stood on the land of his childhood, faced his parents with years of regret and unspoken grief, and made a final decision. He purchased the land, not for the Republic, not for the Foundation, but for William Ellis. What Ellis learned from his new ally was the true power of propaganda. War required a spark, but the reality in Cuba was already darker than any yellow journalism could invent. Spain was ruled by a child. King Alfonso XIII, only 10 years old, reigned in name alone under the regency of Queen Maria Cristina of Austria, guided by Prime Minister Antonio Cánovas del Castillo. In Cuba, authority fell to Governor-General Valeriano Weyler. Tasked with ending decades of rebellion, Weyler unleashed a campaign of terror. Scorched earth, reconcentration camps. Between 170,000 and 400,000 Cubans, men, women, children, were dead. Over 300,000 civilians imprisoned. History would remember him as El Carnicero, the butcher. Officially, the Republic claimed Cuba had seized Confederate shipping and confiscated legally owned lands. What mattered more was timing. The newly elected Confederate President, John Mosby, was Ellis's perfect counterpart. "We've built the greatest military in the world," Mosby declared, "and I mean to use it. This is the age of conquest." Spain was economically exhausted, yet it refused the 1897 joint offer from the United States and the Republic to purchase Cuba and Puerto Rico. Washington believed European powers, Britain, Germany, Belgium, were quietly propping Spain up, threatening the Monroe Doctrine and the balance of the hemisphere. Spain fielded over 278,000 troops in Cuba, another 61,000 across Puerto Rico and the Philippines, many armed with Mauser rifles but starved, undersupplied and dying of disease. Its navy was large but obsolete. Against them stood 50,000 Confederate troops, 20 modern warships, and 30,000 Cuban rebels. The United States committed 70,000 soldiers, striking simultaneously in Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines, their fleets sealing the oceans. No reinforcements, no escape. The campaign began in terror. Thomas Jordan's secret regiments moved with rebels and irregulars, shredding Spanish communications and supply lines, forcing entire armies into deadly marches through swamps, mountains, and guerrilla-infested territory. Ellis landed on Isla de la Juventud, establishing his command. The Confederate Navy struck first, crippling Spain's slower fleets and pulverizing coastal fortifications. It was preparation, precision, a war planned down to the hour. Was all it took. Europe reeled. The speed, coordination, and brutality of the American allies sent shockwaves across the world. The United States seized Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Philippines. Cuba fell under Republican control. Ellis was named governor of the Caribbean. But victory came with a curse. He now ruled an island bled by terror, where rebellion was not dead, only waiting. As Ellis and the Republic cross into the 20th century, they race toward industrial power and modern empire. But a new threat rises from within as the next generation of Ellis steps onto the world stage.